Hey, I have a story for you. If you found it odd to have discovered that the son of a vice president of the U.S. should suddenly appear on the board of Ukraine's biggest state-powered energy corporation shortly after a coup in that country saw its replacement government filled with politicians very friendly to the U.S., EU, NATO, and the International Monetary Fund, you might be curious to know that a new report reveals that this apparently troubling behavior on the part of Joe Biden seems to have happened before. Twice. I don't know if I could do this video. If only I could have Joe Biden's help somehow. He helps everyone, doesn't he? Right? Hi everyone, I'm Gardner Goldsmith for MRC-TV, and let me tell you a little tale. Between 2013 and 2015, I worked as a radio and podcast host. I reported on the powerful Western ties and U.S. influence in the overthrow of an elected Ukrainian president who had welcomed Russian energy exports through Crimea, and his replacement. His replacement with an IMF-affiliated leader who was very friendly to the West. Now, one of the big occurrences in this sordid tale was the bizarre appointment of then Vice President Joe Biden's son to the board of Burisma, Ukraine's largest energy corporation. Well, the Washington Examiner's Alana Goodman has uncovered information that makes one wonder if this appearance of impropriety might be a pattern. In February of 2007, Joe Biden contacted DHS to express that he was, quote, concerned about the department's proposed chemical security regulations authorized by Section 550 of DHS Appropriations Act of 2007, end quote, according to the department's log of its contacts with members of Congress. Now, what exactly does this Section 550 do? Section 550, which was passed in 2006 as part of the DHS Appropriations Bill, requires high-risk chemical plants to submit site safety plans to the DHS for approval, including security credentialing and training for employees. Because, as we all know, you shouldn't be able to open a business unless you bend a knee to the government. And if you spend a lot of green in D.C., you just might get D.C. help. Well, it just so happens that 8 weeks earlier, the Industrial Safety Training Council, that's ITSC, and indeed, they had hired good old Hunter Biden's lobbying firm. And what does the ITSC do? Well, it represents the business interests of, yeah, shocker, companies that provide safety training for people who own or work at chemical plants. The Industrial Safety Training Council was seeking to expand the, quote, language in DHS legislation regarding security clearance and credentialing for chemical facility employees and employers, end quote, in January 2007, according to lobbying discourse records. Yes, indeed, and the ITSC paid Biden's lobbying firm, Oldecker, Biden, and Belair, a total of $200,000 between early 2007 and the end of 2008. So, to reiterate, what did smokin' Senator Joe Biden do in February of 2007? On February 28, 2007, Biden contacted DHS to express that he was concerned about the department's proposed chemical security regulations authorized by Section 550 of DHS Appropriations Act of 2007, according to the department's log of its contacts with members of Congress. Which, in light of his son's firm's interests, looks kind of sketchy. Now, the second wonderful tale of seeming sketchiness came in January. In fact, on January 31st of 2007, when, quote, one of Hunter's firm's lobbying clients at the time, a coalition of state-level criminal justice advocates called Search, was also lobbying the federal government for a broader fingerprint screening system at the time. But golly, Senator Joe just happened to have sent a letter to U.S. Attorney General Alberto Gonzales on January 31st, 2007, requesting a meeting with the Department of Justice to discuss expanding the federal fingerprint background check system. Now that is uncanny timing. But wait, there's more. The same day as Biden's letter, Search adopted a resolution calling on Congress to consider, quote, any effort to improve the quality, completeness, and accessibility of criminal history records, end quote, and expand the current system to, quote, allow the return of all criminal history record information maintained by the states on the search subject through a single fingerprint check, end quote. Oh yes, and there's more. The group initially hired Oldacre, Biden, and Belair in 2006 to lobby for federal funding for state-level criminal justice programs, paying the firm $114K over the next year. In early 2008, Search was seeking funding to, quote, assist states in development and use of information to accelerate automation of fingerprint authentication processes and criminal justice data, which are compatible with the FBI's system, according to lobbying records. And what was the result of this 100% above-board constitutional activity? Biden introduced a bill called the Child Protection Improvements Act on March 13, 2008, which created a national fingerprint background check system for volunteer groups that worked with children. Oldacre, Biden, and Belair promptly began lobbying for the bill on behalf of their client, Search, according to lobbying records. Search paid the firm $93,000 in 2008, records show. Oh yeah. Smokin' Joe, not a hint of scandal Biden, whom you can easily find in photos taken in Ukraine between 2014 and 2015 with Oleh Tyahnybok, leader of the fascist Svoboda Party, and that would happen to be a man who is accused of being a neo-Nazi. Perhaps Antifa would like to know about this. Oh, maybe they'd also like to hear the audio recording of then Assistant Secretary of State for European and Eurasian Affairs Victoria Nuland caught discussing with then Ambassador to Ukraine Jeffrey Pyatt, whom the United States would like to see put in place to lead Ukraine.
I'm just thinking in terms of sort of the process moving ahead, we want to keep the moderate Democrats together. The problem is going to be Tyahnybok and his guys. And, you know, I'm sure that's part of what Yanukovych is calculating on all of this. But anyway, we could land jelly side up on this one if we move fast. So let me work on Klitschko, and if you can just keep, I think we want to try to get somebody with an international personality to come out here and help to midwife this thing. And then the other issue is some kind of outreach to Yanukovych, but we probably regroup on that tomorrow as we see how things start to fall into place.
So on that piece, Jeff, when I wrote the note, Sullivan's come back to me, VFR, saying you need Biden, and I said probably tomorrow for an attaboy and to get the deets to stick. So okay. Biden's willing.
Just thought you might like to know. It's all out there. This appearance of impropriety. Who'd have thought? Hey, thanks so much for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe, to hit the little bell if you're watching YouTube, and to visit MRCTV.org, because there are all sorts of things happening at the website which sometimes don't get through social media. You know what I mean. For MRCTV, I'm Gardner Goldsmith.